Big Mouth Season 6 Ending Explained. Big Mouth is back. With Human Resources airing only a few months ago, Season 6 followed on from the end of Season 5 of the show, with elements of the spin-off also being present within this latest series. With us focusing on Nick and Andrew for the first time in almost a year, it was good to see the both of them again, along with their hormone monsters and the rest of the gang returning. So with that, I thought I'd recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from the latest season of the show. So let's get into it. Here is Big Mouth Season 6 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. This season of the show contained 10 episodes as per the usual formula, but instead of focusing on the monsters that are deeply ingrained within the show's core, they took more of a step to the side this season, and we instead saw the characters and their families take the center stage as the show shined a light on families, the differences between them all, and all of the difficulties that some can go through. It made a change to the extreme adult humor that it usually contains, despite the fact that there was still a lot of that ingrained throughout the series as well. I don't know whether this approach was taken because we had a full serving of all of the monsters only a few months ago with Human Resources airing. So maybe this time they wanted to focus more on the human characters. We didn't have the Shame Wizard other than the brief appearance from his mother in episode 3 where she was selling her book, and we didn't have the Depression Kitty, the Anxiety Mosquito, and sadly no Logic Rock. However, we did have the Hormone monsters and brief appearances from a love bug called Flanny. I don't know whether I'm a huge fan of that approach, to be honest. Whilst the story was good and I was engaged throughout the most of it, I do find that the different monsters are what makes the show so good, and the emotions that they represent. Whereas this time I didn't feel as though we really had that. Season 6 focused on the main characters' different families. We had Nick dealing with his tough grandpa moving in and his father going from being soft to tough, mirroring what he was like in his past. We had Andrew's mother being on the verge of divorcing his father and seeing how it was impacting him. We had Jessie dealing with growing a bond with Caitlin whilst her mother felt as though she was drifting apart from her, and Lola dealing with not having strong parent figures around. Plus, we also had Missy growing a connection with new character Elijah, and Jay and Matt holding onto a relationship that wasn't truly there. As we embarked on the final episode, we saw that all of these issues had reached their poignancy and were at a point where something needed to be done. In true Freaky Friday style, we saw them each swap bodies with the person who could help solve their issue. So let's start with Nick. Nick swapped bodies with his grandfather. This led him to, in his grandfather's body, to take control of him and give Elliot the love that he always wanted from him, to feel accepted for who he was, something he was always deprived of by his father. This was the key thing to be able to have the household to return to the way that it was. We even saw that his grandfather, once returned to his original body, was willing to show some love, which was a drastic contrast to what we saw at the start of the season, showing the impact that what a father's love can have on a child. Andrew's arc was the one that I was probably the most engaged in out of all of the characters, his mother and father being on the verge of divorce and seeing how it was impacting him. Outside of this, we saw him with his relationship with Bernadette, which was something I wish we actually got to see more of, as it did make for some funny moments. But instead, she ended up breaking up with him after he travelled to go and see her. Andrew, inside of his father's body, did everything that his father wasn't prepared to do in order to woo his mother again, so that she'd understand how he truly felt about her. He expressed his undying love for her and that he did still love her deeply. This matched with a comedic moment of them getting it on whilst Andrew was still in his father's body before switching back right at the correct time. It made for a good way for the season to finish. Jessie was jealous of her newborn baby sister Delilah and all of the attention that she was getting. So much so that she ended up swapping bodies with her newborn sister. This showed her that she did deserve all of the attention that she was getting purely down to the fact that she's unable to communicate and has needs that need to be tended to because she's unable to do basic things at such a young age. So Jessie saw the value and importance in caring for her younger sister rather than being jealous of her. It looks as though she'll always be there for her now moving forward. Missy's arc was one of being in a relationship with somebody who didn't want to partake in intimate relations like she did. Elijah spent the season wondering why he didn't get certain feelings like others in his school, and especially from Missy when he did care for her so deeply. Over time, he came to the realization that he was asexual. Throughout the entirety of Season 6, we saw that Missy wanted to get closer to him in a physical sense, and it left her with the question of if she wanted to be with him. After he revealed why, Even though it meant that they would most likely not be partaking in activities in the bedroom, she saw through the intimacy in their physical sense and realized that the care that she had for him transcended bedroom activities, leading her to stay with him. Jay was with Matt this season, and we saw that Matt was almost trying to morph Jay into a shell of himself in order to be able to be compatible. One key component in this was him not being a magician anymore. So much so that his way of transferring outside of Coach Steve's mind after being transferred in there was to participate in the magic trick that needed to be done, which he did at the end. Jay was fully accepting of who he was and owned his own identity at the end of the series. I don't believe he'd change for anybody again after going through what he did. I thought this season of the show did feel different to the previous ones. I think it was less crude, a little heavier in the topics that were discussed, and didn't have as much of a focus on the monsters. Normally, the humans rely on the monsters in order to get them out of the situations that they're in, or help them overcome the issues that they're facing. Whereas I feel this season, we saw them do it for themselves and rely on the monsters less. Whilst we got some good Maurice moments, I don't feel as though it had as many as usual. The birth of his son Montel was an arc that I enjoyed watching and further supported the overarching theme of families in this season. I would have just liked to have seen some more. Even Duke Ellington didn't get much of an appearance. The musical numbers in the show were always something that I look forward to, and I feel they were better than usual this season. I'd say my favourite number was the one that we had in the first episode. It felt the most like one you'd hear in a musical and was actually quite catchy. I don't know what the future holds for Big Mouth and how much longer it could go on for. They've done 6 seasons where they've covered a lot of what an individual goes through when they're growing up. With them looking outwards this season and focusing on the families rather than what they're going through in puberty, it does make me wonder what could be next. Regardless, I'd always tune into a season of the show because there's quite literally nothing like it on the platform. I was laughing out loud on multiple episodes this season because the jokes are like no other. Whilst I'd normally say that Maurice carries the show, for me it would have to be Andrew this time. His storyline was gripping, engaging, and felt the most genuine and real out of them all. I wouldn't say that Season 6 is my favourite season of them all. I think it's hard to compete with the first couple because it was just so out there. But I feel Season 6 of the show definitely has its place and showed us a different side to what Big Mouth is. One that was more human, and that amongst the jokes, crudeness and monsters, there was a realness behind what had gone into it. I'd recommend giving this one a watch. So, there you have it. Big Mouth Season 6 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, Theories and Predictions, and Character Breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this season? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.